Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. And thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Hope you're having a good day so far, enjoying your Thursday afternoon. Pretty chilly out here where I'm at. And hopefully everybody's staying warm and everybody's full of holiday chill around this thing. On this edition, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Saints quarterback situation, who is going to get the start of this weekend versus the Washington Commanders in the Week 15 matchup. Jayden Daniels, former LSU Tiger, Heisman Trophy winner, returns back to Louisiana to take on the New Orleans Saints. And the New Orleans Saints, as of right now, sit at 5-8 and very slim playoff chances. But the New Orleans Saints still are trying to go after it. So how is this quarterback situation going to line or at work, wherever you are? Thank you so much for tuning in. Really do appreciate that as well. I know a lot of people have been talking about this subject of who is going to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints this weekend, this game versus the Washington Commanders. Look at the New Orleans Saints. They haven't quit under Darren Rizzi. They are 3-1. They're showing a little bit of life. They're very limited, but they're trying to go out there, giving it everything that they have to make sure that this season looks relatively respectable. If you take into consideration how this season started on a very high note, and then all of a sudden things just got off the rails really quickly, them losing 7 straight games and basically just ticking off the entire fan base. And then that caused Dennis Allen to be fired. But I think they're trying to salvage this season and give people a little bit of some positivity going into the following season in 2025 to try to see if they can actually correct some of these mistakes. I've been very hesitant to talk about this because, quite frankly, Who Dat Nation, I don't want to say I don't care because, I mean, it's a topic of conversation. But at this point, man, look, I think we pretty much know what we have as far as 2024 in Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler. I think you already know. You have two inexperienced guys that aren't really ready for the moment. Now, they'll probably give you some little glimpses of hope, little glimmers, if you will. But I just think that if you think that they're going to go out there and perform better than you've seen Derek Carr do or some of these other quarterbacks that's middle of the road. I just don't see that happening. I look at the Washington Commanders team. I don't know if people have been following them. Pretty sure that maybe a couple clips like a Jaden Daniels Hail Mary or, the back and forth phone boot type game during the bye week of the Saints where they took on the Cowboys. But the Commanders are a pretty good team. Defensively, they look good. They're able to run the football. And Jaden Daniels provides something that the Saints have not been able to stop since I don't know how long, and that's the ability to be able to scramble around in the pocket. And we've seen quarterbacks that don't even have the same type of quarterback skills, abilities as Jaden Daniels, and they have beat down the Saints. I mean, Josh Dobbs doesn't seem like he can play any other team but the Saints. But the Saints, for some apparent reason, always have him looking like he's Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson all wrapped into one. This is just a bad matchup. Regardless of Derek Carr, if he was playing or not, I still think that the Saints would have very slim chances of beating the Washington Commanders. Now, if I'm just looking at both of these quarterbacks based on what has transpired this season, who would I choose? I would go with Jake Haener. I would go with Jake Haener, not because I feel like Jake Haener is better than Spencer Rattler, not that I feel like Jake Haener is just going to win you this football game. I just look at it as if we already saw Spencer Rattler. We saw him this season. We saw, him play in a couple of games, and some people might say, well, he played in those games, but he didn't have an offensive line. He didn't have certain things to protect him, right? He didn't have Eric McCoy out there that probably would have been able to help him to be able to see certain things. All I'm saying is I know that Spencer Rattler is the shiny new toy, and I always use the example of Toy Story where Woody was the longtime buddy of Andy, and then all of a sudden Buzz Lightyear comes in, and now he's Andy's brand new favorite toy. And, I think that's what it is with Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener. I think a lot of people look at Spencer Rattler and his ability, and he generates excitement. And I just think that people don't look at Jake Haener the same way. But I feel like Jake deserves to go out there and perform, and I think it helps the New Orleans Saints also for them to allow Jake Haener to go out there, because that way you have yourself a nice sample size of both quarterbacks and you're able to make the evaluation. Now, I do want to address the comments and some of the little whispers going around about Derek Carr possibly playing in this game. Let me just say this, and I think I said it a few seconds ago. I don't think that the Saints will win this football game, or they'll have a hard time winning, even if Derek Carr was the quarterback. But, I don't see Derek Carr playing in this game because Derek Carr doesn't feel like there's a need to play in this game. And allow me to elaborate. Now, y'all already know, and I'm on record saying this. When it comes to Derek Carr, and this is the reputation that we've seen. The less that is at stake, the more he's going to look appealing. When something is truly at stake, he's just going to fall flat. Like if it's just a Sunday game at 12 o'clock, playing against the Giants or something like that, yeah, I'm with that. And they kind of tried to do that against the Carolina Panthers when he came back. The game that got Dennis Allen fired. All those tough games that these guys were going through, Jake Haener and Spencer Rattler, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to come back for that Carolina Panthers game, the lowly Carolina Panthers, so I can look like the hero. All I'm saying is this. Last season, when Derek Carr was the quarterback, we watched Derek Carr go out there, limp his way on the field, shouldn't have been playing in the first place, all in the name of, I guess, being a team guy. But to me, it had a lot to do with the fact of who was the backup quarterback and the popularity of that backup quarterback and the ability of that backup quarterback in Jameis Winston. You can say whatever you want about Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston has just as much talent as Derek Carr. And the fear of Jameis Winston possibly doing something with the New Orleans Saints, it kind of had that in the back of his mind. And I feel like that was one of the reasons as to why he played through some of the things that he actually played through. I don't see that happening this season because he don't look at anybody as a threat. He doesn't look at anybody as a threat, and he knows that his job is pretty much safe and solidified regardless. So I don't see him playing in this football game. Like I said, I would choose Jake Haener to be the starting quarterback in this game because Jake Haener has yet to start a football game. You know, Jake Haener goes into each game as the backup quarterback, and Spencer Rattler has been the emergency third quarterback. So as far as I'm concerned, I just think that they just need to roll with Jake Haener and see what you have and evaluate at the end of the season. So that's what it all comes down to. I just feel like, you know, going back and forth and talking about who's going to be the quarterback on Sunday in a game where either quarterback plays, it's still going to be a tough outing for him. And it's going to be rough for a young, inexperienced quarterback to come in to play against a team that is flirting with the playoffs. And, you know, I mean, they lost a few games. I would say flirting with their division, but I think that Philadelphia pretty much got that wrapped up. But that's my thoughts on it. But let me go ahead and read some of your comments. Not going to be a long show at all, folks. Thank you all for being here. Jerry says, don't care who the quarterback beat Washington. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough outing for regardless. I don't care who the quarterback was. What up, TJ? What's going on, Velly? Thank you for being here. Bucks Raised Boats says, hi, everyone. Let me scroll down a little bit. I guess I'm getting opening introductions here. Says, just because Washington is a huge favorite to win Sunday doesn't mean New Orleans, as the underdogs, beat them. Yeah, look, there's a chance that any team can beat any other team on any given Sunday. We know that. We've seen upsets happen all the time. But I just think that it's going to be tough. Like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, at the beginning of the week, this game started as the Commanders being a 5-point favorite over the New Orleans Saints. So once the news came out about Derek Carr, that line shot up to 7, right? I mean, so that shows you, like, what Vegas thinks about it, and it's going to be tough for him, man. Like, I want to see both of these guys succeed. I would like for either one of these quarterbacks to come in and, you know, light it up, you know, and have a performance that would be like their career-defining performance. But, man, it's going to be tough, man, especially like Washington coming off a bye week, them having an extra week to be able to prepare for this. And then on top of that, I mean, they're playing for something, like seriously playing for something. I know the Saints are, you know, not mathematically out of this, but I mean, Washington has a very strong chance of making the postseason. And this definitely helps by beating an NFC opponent in the Saints. Someone needs to get the CDL. That's all I got to say, TJ. Come on and join me in the big rig. Nah, man. I'm good. I'm good on that, man. I leave that truck driving to the fine folks like you, Justin, man. I can't see myself doing that, man. I can't see myself doing it. Y'all do an amazing job being on that road, you know, riding down the road, going 70, 80 miles per hour in something that weighs about 2 or 3 tons. Like, I'm good. I'm good on that. What's going on, Cartel? Thank you for being here. Ebony says, do you know if Marshawn is playing? I think he is going to play. You know, all indicators that I've seen that he is going to play. And I think he's going to be motivated to play. We had a chance to get Love about 3 years, but no. Who that? Yeah, man. I mean, the Saints have made some huge mistakes. I mean, honestly, they made mistakes this season. Like, they didn't learn from their mistakes because they were so fixated. And I'm going to say it, Dennis Allen and your boy Mickey Loomis. You know, I just feel like they didn't want anybody to come in here that can be able to challenge Derek Carr. It's just that simple. Why in the world would you go into a season when, think about this, folks. I want people to hear me out on this. Since 2019, the Saints have had to miss games without their starting quarterback. That dates back to Drew Brees. When Drew Brees was the starting quarterback, he missed games. Teddy Bridgewater came in, right? Drew Brees gets hurt, like Jameis had to play in the game. You had Jameis getting hurt, Andy Dalton come into the game. Derek Carr gets hurt. You get what I'm saying? Like, you've had a long stretch of quarterbacks getting hurt, right? And even when Derek Carr refused to sit down somewhere last season when he was dealing with all those injuries, you still had the realities of, man, we can lose our quarterback. Instead of you going out there getting yourself a seasoned veteran, right? Somebody that can actually come in and won some football games in the league, you decided that you just want to go with two inexperienced guys. And I don't care what anybody says. That was to make Derek Carr feel comfortable. And now you're paying a price for it. Not to say that these two guys aren't good. What I'm saying is they're not ready for this moment. Like, eventually, maybe they'll get to this point. Maybe we'll be having these conversations and you'll see something out of Rattler, you'll see something out of Haener, but they were not the part. And I just think the Saints did themselves no favor. So they have nobody to blame but themselves because they had an opportunity. Like, one thing that bothers me about the Saints sometimes is when history slaps them in the face and they decide to give history their other cheek. Don't allow two slaps to come across your face. Like, eventually, let that first slap register and realize how hard that slap is and adjust accordingly. They didn't do that. I mean, they just doubled down on it. Okay, man, look, we not even going to try. We're not even going to try to get a seasoned veteran. We're just going to go with these young guys. As if, Derek Carr was, there was no possibility. And it's not in the realm of possibility that he could get hurt. This didn't make sense to me. The truth is, nobody in the quarterback room is the answer. Draft. And I like Rizzi, but he is not a head coach. I don't want to say he's not a head coach. I think that Darren Rizzi is a head coach. My question is he the right head coach for what the Saints actually need going forward? Like, right now, I just feel like he's a shot in the arm. He's the complete antithesis of Dennis Allen. Like, he's the opposite of everything about Dennis Allen, what we didn't like about him. Even, he's the opposite. He is the opposite of that. And he's refreshing. Like that saying goes, you never want to be the man after the man. You want to be the man after the man after the man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you want to be, because now he's a breath of fresh air. But my question is, when you ain't in the punter's face, when you ain't chewing out the referees, when that just becomes your shtick, everybody just kind of get used to, that's just Rizzi being Rizzi. How are you going to be able to adjust? And I just question, like, is this like can he be that long-term solution? Like, I feel like he can be a head coach. Like, I feel like he got some head coaching qualities, but I feel like when it comes to like player development and dealing with cap and being able to use what you actually have while you're trying to get yourself through this tough situation, can you be that coach? And I don't know. I think that he is the motivation to be able to go out there to give it the old college try and do their best. But I'm still seeing some of the things that kind of plagued this football team, even when Dennis Allen was here. Like, their inability to make second half adjustments, them not being able to, do certain things to try to separate themselves in games. I'm seeing that. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying that he's a bad coach. I think that, there's something there, but there is a difference between being a good coach, and being the right coach. He's a good coach to me, but is he the right coach? To me, that remains to be seen. Other than that, I mean, he checks all the boxes with what you want. Saints start playoff window was open. That's why they pushed Can down the road. Yeah, I think they had a false sense of reality of what the team actually was. And I can understand why, though. It's not that insane. Like when you think about the NFC South, it's not a good division and has not been a good division in a very long time. It hasn't, right? You have like one team like wins 8 or 9 games, and that's good enough to win this division. You don't have to win 10 games to win the South. You don't. Not in most cases, not in the last few years. It's been bad. So, of course, like you feel like, man, there's still a chance because if you win your division, you find yourself in a postseason. And when you find yourself in a postseason, then guess what? Anything goes. Records go out the window. It's about mano y mano. I don't care if you won 12, 13 games. I don't care what seeds you are. All I have to do is play really good football on this day, and I can beat you. So I can understand why they continue to kick the can down the road, and I can understand why, in some cases, Mickey Loomis refused to concede when it comes to just completely blowing this thing up. Because if you look at what's going on around the South, nobody is separating themselves. Nobody is doing something that's just so monumental, so earth-shattering to a point where teams feel like, man, I got to adjust. You can still live in this world of denial like, well, if all my players was healthy, then we'd probably be winning the division right now, right? Because there's nobody out there that's like challenging, or bucking the system when it comes to the South. Nobody. Teams were winning games against low-hanging fruit teams and getting beat to sleep by teams that were the upper echelon in NFC. They've been doing that for years. So as long as that carrot is constantly being dangled in front of front office members, Mickey Loomis and the rest, like they're going to feel like they can go at it. And it's going to continue to make them reluctant to blow the thing up because nobody's separating themselves. Daniels will have a field day against our defense. Yeah, the defense hasn't been good this season, man. It just hasn't. Quitted with the willy-nilly drafting of quarterbacks and develop one. Dang. Yeah, well, look, when it comes to the quarterback position, Barbara, like if you're not like picking one in the first round, top 10 picks, everybody else is kind of like a work in progress. And, I don't know if they're going to be able to get this right. Like, especially like if they don't come to grips with who they are and what they are. Like right now, you can criticize this, but in a way I kind of respect it because I feel like what they're doing right now is an indicator of what they will do when they become successful. They're giving it everything that they have right now, and they're not a good football team. So imagine what they're going to do when they get good. They're going to still give you everything that they have. But in the process, it's like this is not for their own good because the more games that they're winning, the further they're pushing themselves back for actually solving the situation, which is the quarterback situation. So, when Dennis Allen got fired, I mean, it was like they had like the 5th pick in the draft or something like that, or the 3rd pick. Right now, they starting to believe in Rizzi and his system, and they fighting for him. Now they got the 10th pick in the draft. So as long as you constantly have this sense of pride, which they should, they're not going to go out there and roll over, and they're not terrible to a point where they're like, you can go out there and give it your all, you still gonna lose. Like they're not that bad. Like if they go up against a Giants team, or a Browns team, or a team that's, that stinks this season, they're going to beat them because they're not that bad. They're not picking in the top 3 bad, even though some of us probably wish that they would be because that would solve some of these problems. But as long as you have that sense of pride, as long as you have that talent, you're going to be picking in the, 10 between 10 and 15. Just going to happen. We need a head coach that can help the offense. You have to score points in the league. The team with the most points at the end of the game wins. Yeah, I mean, offensive-minded coaches are the ones that everybody loves, everybody pays attention to, right? Because, it's the innovation. That's the thing that keeps people, gravitating to their television, focus on the game. all of this offensive efficiency and all these different exotic plays. That's what keeps the fans involved. There's very few fans that are looking for the defense, right? They looking for, the exotic blitzes and all that kind of stuff. Like, nobody's really checking for that like that. People want to see points on the board. So, of course, teams are going to gravitate to offensive-minded coaches. But you don't necessarily have to be an offensive-minded coach. You can be a team builder, but have a reputation of getting Todd Bowles. Like, Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded coach, but he's really good at finding offensive coordinators, right? Dave Canales is now the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He was his offensive coordinator. And if you look at Liam Cohen right now, like, he's on a trajectory to be a head coach. Don't be surprised if the New Orleans Saints end up interviewing him for the head coaching job. So, I can understand why people love these offensive-minded coaches, but you can be a team builder as well, and still be able to, find the right pieces. Jared says, I get it. Says Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback out of Oregon. I don't know. I don't think that's going to solve your problem, man. I don't. I like Rattler, but we better draft a quarterback. Yeah, I feel bad for Spencer Rattler because, number one, I don't feel like a lot of people would be saying these things if Spencer Rattler didn't play. It's the mystique, right? The mystique of Spencer Rattler would have still been like, man, we don't need no quarterback. We got Rattler. But I feel like he played in those games and we saw that. And we can't unsee it, right? Regardless to what was going on, right? Regardless to not having wide receivers and not having an offensive line, like, it showed us like a bad side. Like, it didn't show us like, oh man, this guy's the future. If he didn't play at all, then I still think that people would be lobbying for him. And I don't think the quarterback talk would be as like constant as it is right now. It's just the fact that now we seen him on the field starting in the game and the Saints didn't win. And now we like, maybe we just need to draft the quarterback now. Even though the circumstances that he was placed in, I mean, I don't think a lot of quarterbacks would have been able to be successful in that. But I feel bad for him. But I'm not in the business of drafting a quarterback for the simple fact of drafting a quarterback, because you got to keep in mind, like, if it's not the right guy, it's still going to be some hard times for your football team. So if you evaluate these quarterbacks and the ones that you feel like are really good, you feel like you're not going to be able to pick them because around the time you're going to be selected. Like, don't pick a quarterback. Don't just pick one just to try to pick one, because you're still going to be at square one. So there's that. But I do want to mention the fine folks at BETUS. You can sign up, get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. As I mentioned, the Washington Commanders are a -7 versus the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are a 7-point underdog going into the game at home versus the Washington Commanders. You can place your bets at BETUS. You can use that promo code YouTube150. Let me see. All for developing a quarterback, but do we have a guy in the building who can actually develop one? And do we have a quarterback worth development? I'm not sure. See, that's the thing right there. And we've seen this, Valley, and we have to be very careful about this, because we've had conversations and shows where we talked about how the New Orleans Saints will allow players to go other places and teams would be able to utilize them in a certain way, and that player just becomes a better version of themselves. It's hard for me, based on the track record of what I'm seeing from players that leave the New Orleans Saints and they go to other places and their teams get max production out of them. Truly developing these players, or they're putting them in a position to succeed. And you have to take that into consideration. Now, I'm not saying everybody that comes through the spot, the Saints have failed them. But all I'm saying is you got to take that into consideration when you're talking about how bad or how good some of these players are. In this case, how bad they are. Oh, he sucks. He never sees the field. Why he can't play? Well, he goes somewhere else, and now he's the linchpin. You know, like it's unbelievable, right? So I don't know if these players are not good enough. Maybe it is a situation when it comes to the development of some of these players, and that's the reason why some of these players don't get a fair shake when it comes to our opinions about them. Maybe they're not being put in the best position. But yeah, I don't know if they got a coach that can develop some of these players. I believe that Clint Kubiak is a talented offensive coordinator. I just question like his ability to be able to adjust. I mean, and I need to see more players develop in the same system, because right now I don't see too many guys like better or becoming better. Like, I guess you can say Brian Rizzi, maybe, like he seemed like he's starting to look the part, and you can say Carl Granderson, but it's too few and far in between, in my opinion. I'm just going to pray that we draft a quarterback. Well, if the Saints decide that they want to be aggressive and try to move up and try to acquire somebody, but I mean, I look at it's too much of a murderous row and too many teams that are picking in the top 10 before the New Orleans Saints pick. I'm trying to pull up the draft board right now, the draft order, I should say, just courtesy of Tankathon. But I mean, too many teams right now. I'm trying to pull it up so you all can see it as well. Too many teams in front of the New Orleans Saints. They're in desperate need of quarterbacks. So as you all can see, I'm pretty sure it's on the screen right now. And I apologize if you can't. Try to make all these pop-ups weird. Let's see. So you got Las Vegas. Las Vegas, they're 2-11. They're going quarterback. Giants, no, they're going quarterback. New England is not. Carolina is not. Jacksonville is not. Tennessee, there's a chance that Tennessee could move on from Will Levis. Jets, there's a possibility they can draft a quarterback. Cleveland, possibility they can draft a quarterback. Chicago, no. And then you got the Saints. So you got a couple teams in there that, have a strong chance of drafting a quarterback. So unless the Saints are going to really make a deal, an offer that, Mark Davis can't refuse, or, the Giants, upper management can't refuse. It ain't happening. They pretty much won too many games and beat too many of these teams. Like they played the Vegas Raiders, but I feel like the Vegas Raiders at that time gonna be then checked out. They already beat the Giants. They split with the Carolina Panthers, right? So if the Saints start losing, let's just say if the Saints lose their next two and Carolina win their next two, then they will actually switch places with Carolina in that regard. So, I mean, if you want to tank and try to move up, maybe get to that number 4 spot or something like that, the number 5 spot, and maybe you can wheel and deal your way to, quarterback. I still think it's going to be pretty tough, though. It's not easy. It's not easy, man. So the Raiders are picking a quarterback. Giants, they picking a quarterback. I mean, Tennessee, is up in there. But I think they're going to pick a quarterback. It's going to be tough, man. And then you just don't want to be, picking quarterbacks for the simple fact of picking quarterbacks. And let's just look at some of the quarterbacks that are going to be coming out in the draft this year, that's projected. I mean, some guys have to declare because if they're juniors or something like that. But, I mean, you look at some of these guys on here, and once again, I pull this up so you all can see it as well. All right, so you got Shedeur Sanders. He's the top-rated quarterback coming out. So as number 1, like I said, more than likely he's going to go to the Raiders. You got Cam Ward. That could be a possible Giants pick. You got Jalen Miro. Him coming out of Alabama. I don't see him as a first round pick. I'm sorry. I know some people do, but I don't. Gus Nussmeier. I don't feel like he's a first-round pick. Quentin Ewers, don't feel like he's a first-round pick. Drew Aller, I mean, nice size, but second, third round pick. Carson Beck, too up and down for me. Second round, possibly third round pick. Dalen Gabriel, second, third round pick, in my opinion. I mean, not too many guys. I mean, none of these guys are going to change, your misfortunes at the quarterback position. I just think that, you just want to be careful. I mean, you don't want to just draft a guy and then in a couple of years trying to do the same thing again. Like, if you're going to pick a guy, pick somebody that's going to be able to go out there and give you that production you can build a team around. If you can't get Cam Ward and you can't get Shadur Sanders, like, you got to think about possibly just drafting another position of need. Don't just draft a quarterback just because, I need a quarterback. Then you're going to have 3 quarterbacks on there that's not ready for prime time. How about picking up Sam Darnold if you can't draft one? I think what Sam Darnold is doing in Minnesota is amazing, and I'm glad that this man was able to resurrect his career. But I also think that he's a product of circumstance. I think that Kevin O'Connell is a really good coach, and we've seen Kevin O'Connell do this with other guys. Like, we've seen Josh Dobbs go on a little bit of a run. We've seen, what he has done with Kirk Cousins. Like Kirk Cousins, before he had that Achilles injury, he was on a little bit of a warpath. They even won like 11 or 12 games in O'Connell's first season. So he has that ability to be able to get the best out of these guys, right? He's that quarterback whisperer. So I feel like Sam Darnold is benefiting from Kevin O'Connell being his coach. And I just wonder, like, will you just fall right back to reality if you go to a situation where you don't have a coach like Kevin O'Connell that's going to be able to help you see the field? That's my question with that. So I'm not going to say that, getting Sam Darnold is going to help. Like me, it wouldn't. I just feel like he's a product, of a really good coach and a really good system. So I don't want to be in that situation. And also, you got to think about how well he's playing. He's going to demand a certain amount of money when he gets on the open market. Do you want to go down that road again? Absolutely not. So if I'm developing players and I'm trying to, do something, I want to bring in a coach that can be able to develop that young player that's on that rookie deal. That way I can go out here and build my team around them and be able to win some football games all the while I'm figuring out this cap situation. His Rizzi gets too emotional on the sidelines, and will that hurt him being a coach? No, I don't think it'll hurt him being a coach. I think guys understand, that the fire and the passion that he comes with. That's just who he is. I don't think it's going to hurt him as a coach. I think that but it just can't be. It just can't be your bread and butter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't just be yelling and fussing at guys and throwing your hat down and getting everybody all excited. Oh, that's our coach right there. But you ain't winning no games. So if you winning some football games and you knowing that, then I can understand. Like, okay, man, that's my guy right there. But you just can't, you just can't be pea and vinegar and nothing else. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta have some substance to you as well, like developing players, putting the right coaches in here, et cetera, but I don't think it's going to hurt them. I mean, as long as you're out there and guys want to play for you and you're putting them in a position to succeed, you can be any type of coach you want to be. I mean, we've seen Bill Cowher do that for years, but I mean, that is a bygone era. Let's see, right, because we don't have a really good coach and a relying on a good system. Yeah, look, I feel like this. You got to make sure that you have the right infrastructure in place in order for guys to, right? You meant demeanor. Okay. Yeah. But anyway, I feel like you need the right infrastructure. You need a coach that's going to be able to develop players. You need a coach that's going to be able to put players around him. And honestly, I think at this point where the Saints are, you need a coach that's going to be able to use what you have and maximize that. Like you gotta you need a MacGyver coach. If you ever seen MacGyver back in the day, like MacGyver would get himself out of some very sticky situations using a rubber band and a paper clip. You know what I'm saying? And he'll just turn this into some type of device, and here's some smoke, and here's some, you know what I'm saying, here's some fireworks. And the next day, you know, MacGyver got himself out of a situation, right? That's what you need right now, because your salary is trash, right? So you need a coach that's going to be able to fix, you know, the situation or have you formidable, all the while using what you actually have. Because you're going to have to go through a deal where you're going to have, you know, minimal players like they're playing on these, last chance you contracts. So you got to be able to utilize those guys if you want to be formidable. That's what they need. So when it comes to, like, you know, quarterback, like, you need a whisperer, right? I feel like it's not a coincidence that when we see guys play at a high level, let's just say they have a really good offensive coordinator and they play at a high level. I mean, just look at Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan. When Kyle Shanahan was the offensive coordinator of the Falcons, Matt Ryan won league MVP. When Kyle Shanahan left, went to the 49ers and became their head coach, Matt Ryan couldn't replicate the season that he had with Kyle Shanahan. So you need that coach. You look at guys like Jalen Hurts. When Shane Steichen left and went to the Indianapolis Colts, same thing. So you need the right guy. You need the right guy. You need the right coach quarterback combination. For the 2025 draft, I say go best available between wide receiver, defensive line, and O-line. I agree, because that's where you're going to be at, Jack. I think the top quarterbacks are already going to be gone. This ain't a very strong draft for quarterbacks. Exactly, TJ. A quarterback needs to fit for a team system, not to be made to fit a system he is ill-suited for. Yeah, like you got to be able. You got to be able to have the right pieces in place, or is it going to fail? Plain and simple. It rhymes. Nuss left a lot to be desired for me. Maybe I was spoiled with Burrow and Jaden. Yeah, I think that's probably what it was. You know, when you see guys playing at a high level like Burrow and Jaden Daniels did, you know, it's kind of hard for you to go back to that, right? It's kind of what we're dealing with as Saints fans with Drew Brees. All those years of Drew Brees playing great, and, you know, all of a sudden, like, now there's a huge drop-off. You know, Derek Carr is your starting quarterback. Like, we're used to a certain type of quarterback play, a quarterback that made more positive and more winnable decisions than not, right? And it kind of spoils you. But I will say, in the case of Nussmeier, this is his first year as a starter. And if you look at some of these guys like Jaden Daniels and, you know, Joe Burrow, like, it took them a year in order for them to be who they are. So, I mean, Joe Burrow, when he first landed on LSU campus, he wasn't what he was in his final season in 2019. And Jaden Daniels had to go through some issues as well. So I feel like, you know, when it comes to Nussmeier, he leaves a lot to be desired to me. He kind of reminds me of Derek Carr. I'm not going to lie to you. So, but he still has an opportunity to kind of change that narrative. And I'm just wondering, like, is he going to – I seen him on the draft board, but I'm wondering if he's going to decide to come back to maybe be the starting quarterback for the Tigers next season. Right. When we had Sean Payton, he developed and put Jameis in a good situation. He put Teddy in a good situation, but we don't have that anymore. Yeah, I mean, you got to have that quarterback whisperer. You got to have that coach that's going to be able to turn chicken-ish into chicken salad. Y'all know what I'm talking about. This season has been a living nightmare, TJ. Yeah, it's been pretty bad, man, and it's like that movie that just been on too long, right? Like, we get it, right? We get it. We know what's going to happen at the end. Like, man, we no need to get to these points. Like, it's almost like watching a biopic or a period piece type movie, right? You know, like, Titanic or Pearl Harbor or something like that. Like we know, like all this extra stuff that's around there, like, man, let's get to the part where, we really get upset because this and that happened, right? This is like how this season is. It's like something that's just been on way too long. Let's see. Not sure why this incompetent team died. Go with Haener. Already gave Rattler a shot in 3 games and lost all 3. What message does that send to Haener? He wouldn't want to resign with this organization. Yeah, I get that, right? And I feel it's not even about, oh man, I waited around, because look, man, football ain't about that. Like, man, it's my turn. Like, no, you go out there, you bust your tail, and that's what it's supposed to be. And in this case of Jake Haener, like, a lot of people felt like Jake Haener played better than Spencer Rattler, and he got kind of railroaded a little bit. It made us feel good because we were excited to see Spencer Rattler, but I can understand it from a certain standpoint of Jake Haener. I never had anything against Jake Haener ever. Like, I think that the guy deserves a chance, especially if the guy that he is going up against is Spencer Rattler. They kind of on the same playing field. So if he's not better than me, he's not worse than me. Like, and I'm here and I've been here. Why can't I get my opportunity? I just feel like Jake Haener needs to get his opportunity, man. He needs to get his opportunity based on the fact that he has played good enough, based on the quarterback pecking order, that he should be able to get the opportunity to go out there and play against the Commanders. I would be shocked. I mean, absolutely shocked if Jake Haener is not the quarterback this Sunday. I would be absolutely shocked, like flabbergasted if he's not. JSU versus South Carolina State Saturday for the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta. Yeah, absolutely, Jerry, and I'll be there. I'm actually leaving out. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow to go to the Celebration Bowl, and y'all see me out there, man. So I gotta be. I'm going out there as a journalist, so I gotta make sure that I'm being unbiased. Well, being unbiased about the situation, but I mean, y'all already know. But I'm trying to be as as fair and as impartial as I can, man. So there we go. TJ, LOL. So I wasn't going crazy then with my dislike for nah. You weren't going crazy. I think that dude, he made a lot of mistakes, man, especially in big moments. Like, you can't play like that in big moments at LSU, man. That's a big time football, school right there, man. You got to be able to step up or step aside, plain and simple. And can't stop nobody without a competent D line. That's why you have linebackers and safeties tackling runners. Yeah, I mean, that defensive front, it has been been utterly inconsistent. I mean, it's been very disappointing to watch, especially when you felt like Chase Young can give you something, and Carl Granderson just got that contract. Brian Brzee has been a bright spot, but the big issue with Brian Brzee is he not a really good run defender. Like, he's not good. Like, if you're gonna play on the interior, man, you got to be able to be a run stuff. That's why I say, man, I'm lobbying. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would have a conversation with Brian Brzee, and I would move him to defensive end. I really would. I would move him to defensive end. I ask him to maybe shred off maybe 15, 20 pounds, move to defensive end, and I'll have him out there. And he probably, can be your next really good pass rush. He can be your next Will Smith. He can be your Trey Hendrickson, your Cam Jordan. I think, man, this dude is like freakishly athletic, like a 320-pound guy diving over the top of a pile to block a kick. Like, imagine what this guy can do. He slimmed down a little bit. So I would take that into consideration if he can't get better at stopping a run. TJ, how do you feel about Rizzi screaming at grown men like they kids? I didn't really like that. Peyton was a hard-nosed coach, but not that extreme. Yeah, Sydney, here's the thing. Number one, Darren Rizzi is a special teams coach. That's where his bread was buttered. I know I keep on saying that, but it's kind of appropriate for what I'm saying. And I can understand, like, when you giving up big plays like that on special teams, you wonder to yourself, like, man, if I wasn't his head coach right now, man, this wouldn't be flying. And he also you also have to look at it too, Sydney. There's levels to this. There's levels to this. Like, he know who to do that to, and and when to do it. Like, you could do it to Matthew Hayball, right? Matthew Hayball was in a competition with Lou Hetley at the beginning of the season. He didn't even know if he was going to get this job, right? But you ain't about to do that. You ain't about to chew out Alvin Kamara on the sideline. You ain't about to chew out DeMario on the sideline. It's like, you know who to do that to, right? And by doing that, it sends I guess like it sends like a signal to some of these other guys, like, man, you got to step your stuff up too, right? So I just think that at this point, you'll probably do that to a Kevin Austin. You would probably do that to a Mason Tipton, right? But you ain't about to do that to all these other guys. I don't feel like it left a bad message at all. I just think that he's passionate behind his side of the football, and also Matthew Hayball is what you call low-hanging fruit. Let's see. I have to disagree. I think Rattler better than Haener, and he won a backup job. Haener couldn't put points on the board in preseason against third stringers, and Rattler looked pretty okay against Tampa. Well, you might say that he's better than Haener, but I didn't see that. I mean, I'm just look. I like both guys. Anybody know me knows that I respect both guys. But I like Spencer Rattler. Was happy that the Saints drafted him. But I mean, if I was sitting up here telling you, oh, he just looked better than Jake Haener, I'd just be knowing that just off bias. And like, I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm just saying for me, if I'm like completely like evaluating the games that they played. You had one game where Jake Haener looked better than Spencer Rattler. Then the second game was pretty much a wash. And then the third game, you basically had Spencer Rattler looking better, better than Jake Haener. So what you had was one guy looked good in one game, the other guy looked good in another game, and a wash. So he didn't do anything to me that just made it stand out like this is just the obvious decision. It's almost like when they had the competition post Drew Brees, right? When they had maybe Drew was there. Drew was gone. They had the competition between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston. And it was pretty obvious that Jameis Winston was out there slinging that ball around, and it looked good, right? So it made it like it's a no-brainer here. I never felt a sense that about this quarterback competition. And like I said, it's not the fact of, one quarterback is better than the other, so he should let him start. Both guys leave a lot to be desired. One guy had 3 opportunities to play. The other guy didn't. So if we're talking about a camp of evaluating talent, right, we don't know if either one of these guys, neither one of them are going to be the starting quarterback or the solution to your quarterback issue. So why not get a large enough sample size to be able to and a lot of it wasn't really on Rattler, but you're able to look at his mechanics and the way that he does things and wonder to yourself, is this something that I can actually work with? Do you have that with Jake Haener? No, you don't. Because what are you evaluating him on? Preseason? Like you said, like give him some real-time live reps, and it may not pan out. But at this point, let's just keep it a buck. Do we actually care who that nation? Not really. Like a lot of us, like, man, I just want this season to be over. I'm just watching the game. It's just background noise while I'm tinkering with stuff and all that, right? So get yourself a large enough sample size of the quarterbacks that you actually have so you would know how to adjust and how to move in the future. You have Spencer Rattler on tape. So let's get some tape on Jake Haener. TJ, what if we move Adebo to safety? I don't see that happening. I don't see him moving to safety. Especially like if you look at the Saints secondary right now. Like I think that they are going to Like, I think they're gonna pay Paulson Adebo, and I think that they're gonna have him opposite of Kool-Aid McKinstry, and they're gonna move Alontae Taylor back to the nickel. Or he's probably gonna be playing some safety as well. What if Jake Haener beat the Commanders and go undefeated? Should he start next season? That'll be up to the new coach. That'll be up to the new coach. But I don't care if Rattler or Haener go undefeated. I would not. I wouldn't believe that either one of those guys would be the starting quarterback next season. I mean, you have to think about another coach coming in, probably want to bring his own guy, his own philosophies up in there. So I think even, I don't care how they end the season, it's still going to start with a competition. TJ, speaking of quarterbacks, do you think Chicago chose the wrong quarterback, Williams over Daniels? Well, look, Linda, we got to be careful with that. I think that's a fair question, but I'm glad that you said that. And I kind of mentioned this on the NFC South Roundtable. And I'm asking everybody to subscribe to the NFC South Roundtable. But I think that we have to be really careful at, our quick assessments of quarterbacks. When you look at Caleb Williams and what he's doing with Chicago, people are like, oh, man, it's a waste of a draft pick. Oh, man, they should have went with Jaden Daniels. I mean, I'm not saying you, Linda, but, I mean, what you're saying people have talked about. Because you look at Jaden Daniels with the high QBR, high completion percentage, seems like he's a seasoned veteran, played early in the season, looked the part, looked like he was a Grizzly veteran. And you have Caleb Williams out there basically just kind of going through the motions. But, both of these guys are in their rookie season. We have a tendency of attaching ourselves to outliers. And when we see these outliers go out here and just do these phenomenal things, we're like, that's what it's supposed to look like. That's what they're supposed to do. And if the other quarterback, rather he was drafted before him, doesn't look that part, then we automatically label them as a failure. I'll give an example. You look at last season, CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud statistically, I mean, he looked leaps and bounds better than Bryce Young. Made everybody start believing that Bryce Young was just a waste of a draft pick. But if you look at the way that Bryce Young has performed over these last few games, be that as it may, they lost, but he still looks good. And you look at the Houston Texans, CJ Stroud has been struggling. Right? And now the narrative is shift. Well, maybe Carolina did make the right decision. Maybe he can be the quarterback of the future. We have to allow things to marinate, right? We can't have that microwave mentality where if they don't come in looking the part, throw them away. Like, quarterbacks have to develop. Players have to develop in the league. Like I said, we have a tendency of attaching ourselves to outliers. We attach ourselves to them. Like, oh, man, look, you seen what he did? Man, you seen what Rook did? Man, he threw for 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. All quarterbacks aren't going to be like that. Some guys are going to end up being what you want them to be through trial and error year after year. And then probably around year 2, year 3, maybe they start like really coming into their own. But, we can't make that assessment just yet because you look at Matt Eberflus and you look at Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn has had experience as a head coach, and he, even though, they didn't win, he did lead the Falcons to a Super Bowl. They did have some really good seasons with him as the head coach. So he has that experience to be able to go there in Washington, and he also has the ability to understand the trials and errors and be able to correct some of the things that he did wrong the first time around by bringing in a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who is a much better offensive coordinator and quarterback whisperer than he is a head coach. Now, I know his name is supposed to be at the top of the list when it comes to Chicago because of his relationship with Caleb Williams, but I'm telling you right now, like, that's some guys are coordinators and some guys are just, born to be head coaches. And he kind of falls into that position guy type thing. So the circumstances helped him. It helped him. I'm talking Jaden Daniels. He was good. But the situation that he fell into, it helped versus Matt Eberflus, who basically was trying to salvage his job. The whispers were like, man, get it together, you fired. Like, it's kind of hard, for me to sit up here and just say, did they make a mistake? Like, now, if we're having this conversation, Linda, 2 and 3 years from now, and you ask me that question, I think I'll have a more definitive answer for you. But it takes time for these quarterbacks to develop. And sometimes we gotta stop looking at the outliers sometimes, because the outliers lead off ESPN, the outliers lead off Fox Sports 1, and we have a tendency of feeling like we're watching something that's just absolutely magical, all the while not realizing that what we're seeing guys aren't doing all the time. And as I over here struggling, that is the norm. Struggling rookies are the norm. We just have a tendency of just paying attention to the ones that don't struggle. We'll take a few more and then we're going to get up out of here. It says, I agree. If Jaden Daniels was playing for the Saints, he will not be having a season he has. He needs O-line and weapons. Yeah, the circumstances have got to help you. Giovanni says, hey, TJ, should we trade a pick for backup quarterback J.J. McCarthy? Rumors are coming out that they may trade him. Well, I feel like that would be a huge mistake if they trade J.J. McCarthy because they want to keep Sam Darnold. That guy is someone that you could actually build your team around. Sam Darnold, I'm glad that he's having a magical season, but hey, man, before J.J. McCarthy got hurt, he was starting to look the part too. So, to me, I have so much faith in Kevin O'Connell that I think that you would have seen a J.J. McCarthy being in a rookie offensive player of the year conversation. So I just think that Sam Darnold is benefiting from this system. So if we got quarterbacks benefiting from the system, let me get my quarterback that's the cheapest one that has the higher ceiling here to be able to go out there and give me what I need. So if they were trading him, yeah, I probably would. I probably would go that route. But to answer your question, yeah, I would go that route if they were to trade him. Why every time the other NFC South teams go on a losing streak, they compare themselves to the Saints losing streak? Saints and Bucks had injuries to starting players. Falcons and Panthers just lost. Look, that's because they need something, to make them feel better about their circumstance. Like the Saints going on a 7-game losing streak makes them feel better. We're on a 4-game losing streak, but it's not a 7, right? But at the end of the day, like your team still isn't everything you thought they was going to be, which I find funny. Because especially since I starting to see these Falcon fans just slowly starting to back themselves back into the hedges again, like that Homer Simpson meme. But look, misery loves company at the end of the day. And nobody wants to feel like their situation is worse than somebody else's. So, but a loss is a loss, man. A losing streak is a losing streak. This is a bad division. Like, to me, Tampa can't really say anything because they just benefit from being in a bad division. If Tampa was in any other division, they'll be dead last in the division. Like, they benefit from the fact that they play in a bad division. But to defend that, any team that wins this division is benefiting because they're in a bad division. But that's the reason why they can't really get rid of Todd Bowles. Like, how can you justify firing a coach who wins the division every year? I mean, like they probably want to go in a different direction, but how can you justify that? How can you justify it? You can't. So I don't know. And let's see. Bryce Young is improving. Yep. Bryce Young is improving. She is send JJ to the Saints. Yeah. I mean, if that opportunity presents itself, by all means, please do. Michael, thank you very much for the donation. 199 says, I think Lattimore will be motivated. Well, I think that all of that vengeance in the hearts of those players that we thought that they would have is kind of left when Dennis Allen got fired. Like, I feel like he probably would have been motivated to go out there and cook and make plays if Dennis Allen was on the other side, head coaching his football team. But I just think that, he left a bad taste in a lot of these players' mouth. I don't think they too much liked him very much. I don't care what anybody says. I just don't think they liked him very much. And I think that a part of, a lot of those players are happy that he's gone. Plain and simple. But I don't think that Marshawn feels the same way about playing the Saints as he would if Dennis Allen was the coach. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Once again, my name is Timothy J. Jones. You can follow me on X at TJAYJones8 as well as Blue Sky at TJAYJones8. You can check out previous episodes right here on YouTube. And also check me out on the NFC South Roundtable. The NFC South Roundtable, you go to youtube.com, search NFC South Roundtable. We do it every Tuesday at 7 p.m. live right here on YouTube. We have a really good time over there. You can check out previous episodes of it. Tell me what you think. You like it? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm excited. This weekend, I will be traveling to Atlanta to cover the Celebration Bowl. My alma mater, Jackson State University, will be taking on South Carolina State. And it's amazing, man. It's actually my first bowl game covering. And ironically, it's for my alma mater. So truly a dream come true right there, man. So be on the lookout. I have some information, about the game, and also, some of the possible NFL prospects that they may have out there, man, guys that may need to be looked at. We'll be covering them as well. So look forward to doing that. Also extremely excited to announce at the end of the season, we are going to be having a weekly Saints show on Bleacher Report. I recently spoke with Bleacher Report upper management, and they want to do a show each and every week on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. So we'll be doing Saints Talk throughout the off season. It's going to be a weekly show covering the New Orleans Saints. So extremely excited about the opportunity. I've been working with Bleacher Report the entire season, so I think I did good enough. They want to bring your boy back on a more consistent basis, man. So appreciate the love from Bleacher Report, and looking forward to doing this, man. Looking forward to doing this. I'll make sure that I give you all more information as it comes, but it is definite. Every single week, every Wednesday on Bleacher Report, we'll be doing a Saints show with yours truly. But thank you so much. Have a good morning, noon, night, whenever you're checking out this podcast. And like always, all I got to say is, who dat?
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.